Okay people, so once again, One Piece with the mind-blowing stuff. And if everything connects the way it seemingly is looking like it could potentially connect in One Piece after chapter 10-18, then potentially Luffy could very well be either God himself, the descendant of God, or at the very least wield the spirit of God based on connections of potentially Joy Boy, Nika, the Sun God that we recently found out about, and something that Kaido recently said regarding Joy Boy as well. A lot to digest after 10-18, the battle of Jinbei versus Who's Who. A lot to talk about, but especially like, yo, we got God in One Piece, fam. We got God, and also something very immensely impactful that I gotta do nothing but praise Oda, and that's him tackling very heavy, very strong themes like he's always done. And this is why One Piece usually edges out and is a step above the rest of the other series out there, because it goes into deep matters that are real to the real world as well, and does a phenomenal job at going through it. So without further ado, people, we gotta talk about it. We gotta do it for the one time. Let's talk a little bit of that One Piece greatness. Yo, I can't believe we're talking about God in One Piece, the Sun God at the very least. Let's do it.
No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done.
Okay people, so like I started this video off saying, we're definitely entering some very heavy territory. Like, yo, between the Sun God stuff, the things regarding the slavery, and you know, the Sun Pirates, and just so many different aspects of what like Who's Who brought forth. Like Who's Who really dropped bombshells here, and he's always been a little bit of a mystery, especially going into Wano, and a lot of little by little us learning things about him. But this chapter, once again, it raised even more questions, while it brought forth a little bit of like, wait a minute, what the heck is going on? Joy Boy, Nika, so many different things to talk about. It also just showcases that Who's Who is a lot more, and just Oda in general with like the 1,000 plot threads that he has. Yet again, some that you might not be the most interested at first, like, oh, okay, Jinbei having a cool fight against Who's Who. Then it's like, oh no, this is more than just a fight right now. Like when Zoro gets his next bout, Sanji versus Queen, all of that is going to be cool on a, not only, I don't want to just say superficial level, but you know, it's cool for their character, for their moments and things like that. This is for the entirety of the story type of deal with, again, a side fight. Like this is a dope fight. You know, Jinbei's a Straw Hat now. He's a very important character, been an important character, but it takes it another level when it's like, it's not only just a battle, it's also unraveling slightly big pieces of mystery from the One Piece world. Crazy stuff. But we gotta talk from the top. Starting off, let's talk about that cover page of Ulti and page 1. And I ain't gonna lie, after seeing, what was it, last chapter, the chapter before that, them getting KO'd and shit, well, no, it was actually a few chapters ago now, I want to say, with Big Mom and Nami and all that stuff. Yeah, seeing them is kind of like, maybe Oda did that as one final hoorah for them, because they're not gonna be around for a while. We're not going to see them because, again, they seem to be out. Like, Nami gave that final blow to Ulti, and of course, page 1, Big Mom did him in, so I don't think we'll be seeing them for a while. And probably that was Oda saying, hey, here's them one more time. I could be wrong, because a lot of people are saying, like, no, they still got to get back out. Honestly, if they get back up at this point, I'm going to be like, stay the fuck down already. Like, give Nami her goddamn moment already. Enough. Like, there's been so many times where, like, Nami got her moment. There, she's gonna, and then it didn't happen, and then finally happened. If they get up again, it's like, all right then, Oda, you teased us again on that. Nami doing the big things. But, yeah, they're down, and cool cover page for the most part. And the chapter opens up with just a lot of knowledge of how, yet again, the numbers are swaying more so in the allied favor, because between 300 more gifters and samurai flipping over, like, shit is getting hectic. And then people are getting desperate because they're starting to piece together, wait a minute, right after that little girl had her little speech and told everybody that, all of a sudden everybody's switching, so they're starting to understand, which is making her more of a target. And obviously she's a little girl, so it's going to be very, very hectic, because people are noticing, wait a minute, it's that little girl Tama. So Tama right now is going to be in danger, and probably for the remainder of things, because if her power is that damn strong, who knows, maybe she could get, which I don't know what the rules, I can't remember exactly the rules of her ability, but somebody like King or Queen, imagine them being under her thumb. That would be insane, although it'd be hilarious, in particular with Queen looking like, yeah, he's a funny guy as it is, so him following Tama and calling her boss master, I would be hysterically laughing, yes. But they do start attacking, they start going after her. A few people that have flipped now start to help out with, I want to say it was Daifugo and Horse Lena. A few of them are actually helping out this time around, which is crazy, because this war has been going insane, and people have flopped left and right, flip-flopping and shit like that. 1 minute they're on one side, next minute on the other. Even Usopp is like, yo, since when do we make friends on the battlefield? But all right, because yeah, this arc admittedly has been very, very long. I don't know if it's surpassed like the longest arcs in One Piece yet, but it's been pretty freaking long. So yeah, a lot of stuff has happened. A lot of people have switched sides. And then when we start getting into the sea P0 talking a little bit more of these numbers. They're like the headliners followed over, so that was another 1,000. And now in total we are basically going down, and it went from like 30,000 to what was it, 5,000 or some shit. Now we're down to 16,000 versus 9,000. So we've closed the gap immensely. It's less than, they got less than double the numbers, when at one point, what was it, they had 6 times the amount of people. Now they have 2 times the amount of people, less than that actually, like 1.7 or 8 times the people, which is still, you know, a decent advantage. And of course, Luffy being out of the fight right now is not the greatest thing in the world. You know, he's getting put back together, so to speak. But oh my god, the numbers change has been astronomical, from again 30,000 to 5 to now 16 to 9. We've increased numbers, and they've lost almost half their brigade. But then they start putting on the spotlight and showing the importance of who's who, because they're like, one person that we absolutely have to make sure and confirm their death is, yeah, that guy. But they're also talking about like his data is probably going to be outdated at this point, because yeah, if it's been what, 12 years that he got caught up on, you know, having the gum fruit stolen and all that stuff, and he was in prison and shit like that, it's been a while. But I'm imagining up to that point he must know quite a bit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, alone the shit that he dropped, which that's probably one of the worries that they had of the, you know, knowledge, and they're saying that it's outdated, which means that there's probably more to it, and they probably discovered even more regarding the Sun God. That, don't worry, we'll talk about it a little bit later. And that's probably why they were like, well, his data of what he knows is outdated, because again, a lot has probably been uncovered since those 12 years. And the pettiness of, they're like, well, you know, we still got to make sure he's gone, because we don't want to set a bad precedent of, hey, he bamboozled us and lived to tell about it. Like, y'all supposed to be, you know, the good guys, right? I mean, we know the government is piece of this shit, you know, Akai, you know, we need his head on a stick. And I just remember, yo, whatever happened with that Green Bull or some shit? Like, whatever happened with that dude? Like, we still haven't seen much of him. Like, yeah, I don't know, random thought there. And we get a little bit more of an idea of who's grudge. He's like, because Jinbei's like, yo, why you have it out with Luffy and shit like that, and he starts explaining that, well, no, I have it out for the guy that stole the gum fruit for Shanks, but because Luffy inherited not only that man's straw hat, but also the gum fruit that he stole, yeah, I'm gonna have to take my wrath out on him. Let's keep it a buck, let's keep it 1,000, let's keep it real. Who knows, like, what you gonna do to Shanks, fam? You stop it. You gotta go after Luffy, because you think, well, maybe I possibly can throw hand. You know what Shanks at? Shanks gonna fuck you up. Don't play. And here's where Oda decides, yo, I'm gonna push the envelope. And I always, every time I see shit like this, I'm like, woo, especially in this climate, Oda's living dangerous, because who starts to spout some racist prejudice shit, and I'm like, oh, this is what we're doing here. Wow. And he's basically like, yo, I'm surprised you can move fast. You move pretty fast on land for a fishman. And I'm just there like, oh, that sounds like a variant to a certain degree of some shit you would hear in the real world. Because let's be clear, the fishmen have been used throughout this series to basically push forward the message of, you know, the racism that goes on in the world. Like, it's been demonstrated time and time again. I mean, Fishman Island alone with Hody Jones and everything, that was all about like prejudice and racism and what it could turn people into and stuff like. But you know, even thinking back, and that's crazy how the world, you know, has changed so much. Like 10 years ago when Fishman Island was going on, it wasn't even as dangerous to do something like that, you know, in the climate in the real world as it is now. And maybe that's more so a Western thing, but yo, it's still, Western civilization can impact a lot of places. So I gotta commend Oda for once again tackling something very heavy like this, because Jinbei's like, you bitch ass motherfucker. No. Jinbei's like, I don't believe this. Like, yo, it's very out of fashion to say some wild racist shit like that, at the very least about fishmen, fam. Like, what are you doing here? And then he builds up and he's like, yo, I got something I gotta ask you, but he just starts charging at Jinbei. That was like, again, I feel like I just saw a video earlier that was kind of something similar to here. It's like, yo, he says something racist and he's like, I got a question to ask you, and then he just charges him in some rageful way. I'm like, yo, who's who? You alright? Like, yo, you been through some shit in prison, right? Like, you don't got your ass whipped in there. And it's kind of crazy because it looked like he actually befriended people that would be, you know, riding with Jinbei, only to turn into this monster of a man of, like, you know, tackling him and trying to bite Jinbei and shit like that. Like, what's wrong with you? And shout outs to Jinbei just putting hockey all over his body, like, you ain't doing shit, bitch, fuck you. And we get more of a backstory of basically who's saying that here's what he wanted to ask Jinbei. He's like, yo, so when I was in prison, you know, I was being tortured. I was going through it very heavily each and every day, moments, all of that jazz. And there was a prison guard that one time laughed and told him to pray. And that right there opened up a whole floodgate of ideas. And it's crazy because he laughed and told him to pray. Yeah, that was not the move, fam. That was not the wave, because bad shit happened. Because apparently a figure that slaves prayed to that they thought one day would come free them was a warrior known as the Sun God Nika. And I was just kind of like, yo, fam, Oda's going deep, talking about the Sun God right now, and how this guy, like, you know, he was the energy that he brought forth would basically one day free. It was just like, Oda, you really, like, Oda's a woke dude to a certain degree, putting this and you know, encoding the message in something like One Piece that a lot of people, they ain't gonna catch it. You ain't gonna more than likely see the outrage from something like this. And I rocked with it. I thought it was amazing, and I was like, damn. And this is not even something that's just like tossed in there, because this has been a plot thread that has just been going through One Piece for a long time. And who's like, did they dream it? Like, was it reality? Because he was supposed to come and free them from enslavement and bring them joy and shit like that. So this, you know, folk tale or this dream that they brought forth of this guy, you know, Nika, was a very big deal, and it helped them. It helped them to get through, which again, you go back to like slavery stories of like how people, they would sing to get through and shit like that. So this was a deity that they prayed to get through the hardships of, you know, being in captivity and enslavement. And here's the thing, right? And this starts going into why I opened up this video talking about maybe Luffy's God, maybe he's a descendant of God, and at the end of the day, even if he was, right, Luffy's not going to really care. Just being honest with you, we know how Luffy is. He's gonna be like, that's cool, no, I don't really care about that. But check it out right here, right? So Joy Boy is supposed to bring forth joy, you know what I'm saying? Joy Boy, again, assuming the idea that Joy Boy and Nika, the sun god, are one, Joy Boy and Nika is supposed to bring forth laughter, joy, and free people from in captivity, enslavement, and all that jazz. Luffy has done a lot of that, actually. And taking that, and because you're like, okay, so what? Like, I'm sure there's other people around. But then something else that felt like a potential foreshadowing was when Kaido fought Luffy. Remember when he threw him off the island, when he threw him off Onigashima, he said, "You're not Joy Boy, you couldn't be." Now, why would he say that, right? Like, and how does this connect? You're probably thinking like, ForneverWorld, I don't understand where you're going with this. Well, Kaido, he's a suicidal dude. He's tried to kill himself. He feels almost as if he's in captivity in himself. He can't find the joy. He's drinking, so he probably is in depression. He's trying to throw himself off of an island to kill himself. Doesn't work, and he's excessively drinking. He is probably in a lot of pain and probably wants to be free, and thought that guy would basically be Joy Boy himself. You got to think for a moment. Hold up. If Kaido is talking about Joy Boy, and again, assuming Joy Boy and Nika are one and the same, then, I mean, a very powerful and a very notable person like Kaido also believes in this folktale, this legend that the slaves also believe in, which also makes me wonder, like, was Kaido enslaved at some given point? Not that it was against his will, unless this was way earlier, even before he became the monster that he is right now. So a lot of questions to ask, but potentially, if that was foreshadowing of like Kaido being disappointed because he thought that would be Joy Boy, and Luffy has shown very big potential to be somebody that, again, he's brought laughter, he's brought, you know, freeing of people, he's done all of these humongous things that goes into what this guy Nika, like, just look, the Udon prison, who freed everybody from there? Impel Down, who freed everybody from there? Luffy. Potentially the boy of joy, Joy Boy. Potentially Nika, the sun god. Yo, I don't know. Maybe I'm totally wrong about it. Who knows? But I think that it all kind of connects, and it would be huge. And again, just because he would be that Nika, that sun god, doesn't necessarily mean that Luffy is actually like a divine being by any means. It just means that he fits the legend of that person that is going to free people, bring happiness, and kind of change lives. And then let's not forget that, you know, he has one of the sun pirates, Jinbei, under him as well. Like, just got to throw that in there. But, you know, going back to what's going on with, again, because we kind of derailed a little bit, but I had to talk about that. That was one of the big pieces of what I felt came from all of this. So who's who, for a while, he actually bought that concept, and it's what helped him get through of like, yo, this guy Nika one day is gonna come save me. Anybody, just please come save me, because I can only imagine what nightmare he must have been going through when he was in captivity. Think about it. He was working with the government. They're gonna punish their own a lot harder, because it's like, oh, no, you gotta go. You know too much. But then it got even realer. Like, it was already real. It was already very heavy with all the, you know, racist shit going on and stuff like that. But then Jinbei's like, but yo, why are you asking me about this? Why me? And who got even more racist? And I'm just kind of like, oh goddamn, like, Oda, you living wild right now. Because who basically says he heard that there were former slaves in the Sun Pirates, and what is a fishman's history but the history of slavery? And that's a classic statement. You know, you switch a couple of words around, that's a classic statement of a racist, like saying that what is the history of these people but slavery? Like, if slavery and that people's people's history is the only thing that exists within their world. Like, fuck you, who's who. Like, I ain't gonna lie, it was so satisfying. It felt amazing. The end of the chapter, what happened to him. When Jinbei gave him that, it felt amazing to see. I loved it. But we're not quite there yet, because he starts going a little bit OD, using finger pistol and all sorts of shit, stabbing at Jinbei. And then he gave something that made it even darker. It made me look like, and again, this is why One Piece is always just, you know, there's a lot to say about it, but it just is a step above the rest when it gets to this point. Because when I was reading this, and I read this multiple times now, I felt a little bit on edge. I felt a little bit like, this sounds like, again, some shit I just read on Twitter about somebody of something that happened to them in prison and shit, and I'm not gonna get all the way down the rabbit hole. Because the prison guard who told who's who that, they disappeared him a few days later. And you know what that means when they disappeared him, right? Like, basically him talking about the Sun God Nika to him got him hacked, got him whacked, got him offed. They offed him. And who's who, I can only imagine what he was going through. I would love, like, even if it's just 10 minutes of an episode, just getting a flashback, full-on flashback of all that shit, because that just sounds intense. That sounds scary, because at that point he was like, yo, they're probably gonna, if they did that to him, they're gonna come for me next. And that's what pushed him to say, oh no, I gotta free myself, I gotta break free from this. And ultimately that's how who's who got to where he's at today, because he had to, it was do or die. But then ultimately that showcases that, yo, to them it's dangerous to even talk about this legendary sun god. If that's the case, then there gotta be some validity. If people are scared of it that much that they want to hide it so much, there gotta be validity to this legend. But then Jinbei puts this little bitch in his place, using that fishman karate hockey surrounding his body, and gives him that, what was it, the brick fist. And oh my god, the art on that panel and the end, the whole page just looked marvelous, flawless, and the chapter ends. And this was a very, very huge chapter, using, again, not the most important characters. They're important, not the most important, to demonstrate this world history of One Piece and the Sun God. And I loved it. I loved it. I love, again, I mean, it's One Piece, Oda, you know, you know the routine. He does it very, very well usually, and it was amazing. And I'm very, very curious what you guys think about this. Again, if you think it's silly, that's totally fine, but what do you think is the validity of potentially Luffy being Joy Boy, Luffy being the Sun God, Luffy being Nika, or at the very least representing what that legend told of the guy that's going to bring forth joy, that's going to bring forth laughter and free people from their suffering? Seems like he's done a lot of that already. Impel Down, Udon Prison, Island After Island. I mean, yeah, Alabasta, like, come on. And your overall thoughts and expectations. How did you feel about Jinbei versus who's who? How do you feel about a fishman putting a racist piece of shit like who's who in their place? I loved it. I love that sweet, utter comeback. And your overall thoughts and expectations for One Piece with chapter 1019 and beyond. Mwah, what a great chapter. And the Sun God Nika, craziness. That's all I have for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, hit that bell to get all notifications. And if you want to follow any of my other social media, links of course in the description below. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day, and remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life, boy. Have an awesome day. Peace in, and the Sun God Nika, craziness.